Good evening, AP Psychology students. Just calling to give you guys an update on what's happening with me. As you can tell, I'm alive and came through the surgery okay. Very tired. If I move my shoulder up, you can see some of the damage that was done. I am on track to return to you guys on Friday, and look forward to seeing everybody then. Um, want to make sure that you're on track with a couple of things. Number one, your third and fourth snow day packets will be due by the end of the trimester. So I plan to collect days 3 and 4 when I see you on Friday. Please make sure that you have them here. I haven't changed the finals yet, so fourth period will take their final on Thursday unless that changes. Fifth period will take their final on Friday when I see you back. I will let you know if that changes in the interim. I want to let you know I'm pretty tired. It's been a couple of long days. Ready to get some sleep, but also ready to be back, and can't wait to get back with everybody. Hope that you're doing well with Mr. Moore. I know that he's not the greatest when it comes to AP Psychology, by his own admission, but we'll get through it and we'll do great. Want to quickly make sure that you're aware of the other end of altered states of consciousness. Now, we spent some time dealing with sleep, and we've talked about that in its various points. Want to make sure that you're aware of the other pieces of the altered states of consciousness puzzle. Two things come to mind. One, you've got to be aware of the importance of drugs and consciousness. We're going to get into tolerance, we're going to get into withdrawal, we're going to get into addiction, and all of those represent altered states of consciousness. When you talk about tolerance, you're talking about the need for more of a drug to get the same effect that you had in earlier times. When you're talking about withdrawal, you're talking about the circumstances of drying out or ridding yourself of a particular drug and its ideas. The other thing that comes to mind is what happens with the issue of addiction. And addiction definitely represents an altered state of consciousness. Addiction has changed. And over the last 10, 15 years, the way we think about addiction has changed. Increasingly, addiction has become more of a disease. Very clear, very straightforward and upfront in reference to those kinds of things. And as a result, the way we treat addiction has also changed. We now see it as a longer term event. We see it as a circumstance that has to be dealt with. We have to work with it differently than we thought we did before. Key point. Now, another piece that we need to get into are the ideas of depressants and drugs and their effects. Okay? When we think about depressants, obviously the number one thing that we think about is alcohol. And alcohol is always a depressant. No matter what happens, you've got to think of alcohol as a depressant, and there are things that happen when we take alcohol into our bodies. Number one, we're always going to deal with the idea of slowed neural processing. Alcohol always slows down our system, always creates the circumstance where we don't react with the same speed and authority as we do when we are functioning as normal. Number two, alcohol always causes memory disruption. In some cases, it'll cause a divided consciousness, where we will be able to go back and remember things when we were drunk that we would not remember if we had not been drinking. So let's say someone goes on a binge and gets drunk. They may not remember everything that happened to them while they were drunk, but get them drunk a second time And they're going to go back and remember a lot of what happened the last time they were drunk. They're going to remember the fights. They're going to remember the issues. They're going to remember the consequences of those situations. Now, also when we talk about alcohol and we talk about drugs in that way, we also have to get into the idea that we're going to have reduced self-awareness and reduced self-control. Okay? We give up part of ourselves when we are in those situations. We become beholden to other things. We become less likely to remember how we define ourselves, how we deal with ourselves. We're more likely to make the mistakes that end up in us being in jail, that end up with us being in trouble with the law, or in trouble with others. Self-control becomes an issue when we are under the influence. Okay. The other piece of the drug point is the idea of stimulants. And when you think of stimulants, you've got to start with the idea of nicotine. Now, just as we talk about alcohol always being a depressant, nicotine is always a stimulant. Always. Okay? Doesn't matter if you have friends who say, I smoke to calm down. Doesn't matter if you have folks that say, I smoke because I want to maintain self-control, and it's a way to do that. Nicotine is always a stimulant. Okay? They are highly addictive. Okay? More so than in past. Okay? We still smoke about 250 million packs of cigarettes a day. Now, put that into perspective. In recent years, we've talked about the number of smokers in the country moving well under 25%. Now, in Kentucky, that's not such good business because obviously a good bit of Kentucky's economy is still into the tobacco piece. We still sell a lot of tobacco overseas. But despite the fact that the number of smokers seems to be going down, we still, as human society, smoke 250 million packs of cigarettes a day. Now think about that. That's 2/3 of a pack of cigarettes for every American man, woman, and child living today. Pretty interesting stuff. Okay? Now, what we know about cigarettes is that every time we light a cigarette, every time we smoke one to its conclusion, it takes about 12 minutes off of our life. Okay? So take the average pack of cigarettes. 20 cigarettes, 12 minutes. What is that? 240 minutes or thereabouts. So every pack of cigarettes costs us about 4 hours of our lifetime. Now, take that out over a week, take that out over a month, take that out over a year, and you begin to see circumstances that are very different. And the question obviously becomes, is it worth it? Increasingly, people are saying no, but there are still those who are addicted who can't help themselves, who have to light up, who have to do their thing. It's very, very hard to quit. Okay? Very hard to quit. Can't really give that up at any point. Okay? Difficult situation. One that, we don't want to have to deal with, but yet still happens. Also, when we think of stimulants, we need to think of cocaine, because cocaine and nicotine are remarkably similar in the kinds of impacts they have. We use cocaine for much the same reasons that we would use nicotine. It is a stimulant. It heightens reactions. It makes us more, theoretically at least, more aware of the things that are going on around us. And, it's interesting to see what happens when caged rats are given cocaine. They will immediately get into foot shocks. They will get into foot fights. They will impose higher levels of damage on a person when put into those situations. Think about this. In a recent survey, 3% of American high school seniors and upwards of 6% of British 18 to 24-year-olds had admitted to trying cocaine within the last year. 3% of American high school seniors. Now, hard to say who dies, but you got to think about it that way. How many are we going to lose because we are too excited to try it, that we are too willing to try it, that those things become issues for us? I know you guys are smart enough to stay away from it. Do stay away from it. One last thing when we get into drugs, we want to talk about hallucinogens. Okay, when we talk about hallucinogens, we're really talking about two things in particular. One, like it or not, they do call marijuana a hallucinogen. All right, marijuana leaves and flowers contain THC. Whether smoked or ingested, THC produces a mix of effects. Mild hallucinogen amplifies things like sensitivities to colors, to sounds, to tastes, to smells. But like alcohol, marijuana also relaxes, disinhibits, and may produce a euphoric high. So you get a little of both. You get the stimulant and you get the depressant with marijuana, hence the idea of the hallucinogen. Marijuana user can have a very different situation depending on what happens. The other one that we want to get into is LSD, the drug of the 1960s that is tending to make a comeback in the world in 2015. We think about lysergic acid diethylamide. Nothing that comes from it is good. Can leave people thinking that they can fly. Can leave people thinking that they are in a completely different and dangerous state of consciousness. Not something we want to deal with. All right, now there's one more thing that we need to cover when we get into altered states of consciousness, and that is the idea of hypnosis. And I don't want to treat hypnosis now. I will treat hypnosis in another video. I want to do some things, maybe have a demonstration, etc. So I'm going to let you guys get back to your work at this point. Thanks for listening. Guys, I look forward to seeing you all later in the week. I can't wait to get back. Talk to you soon.